Hey guys, it's Zan, and today I'm going to talk about a trick called Bobbery Early. This trick is currently used in the 100% and All-Stars run. It used to be done in English Any % before Skip was found. First off, what is Bobbery Early? Bobbery Early is a glitch where we are able to acquire the partner Bobbery without needing to do any of the game before Chapter 5. This includes going to Bobbery's house, sailing with Flavio, and getting washed up on the beach. The trick is pretty difficult, but it's pretty cool once it all works. Okay, so the first glaring question is obviously step 1. How do we even get to the island without going to Bobbery's house and sailing with Flavio? Explaining this is easy. Instead of going to the 1,000-year door and triggering pre-Chapter 5, we instead skip that and go to the blue pipe room. By doing a trick called Hazard Respawn Glitch, we can get Mario on top of the gray block, which we cannot destroy at this point in the game, and activate the pipe to Chapter 5. Hazard Respawn Glitch works by doing a frame-perfect jump into the water before the game can update Mario's respawn position. Normally, when Mario jumps into the water, he is respawned to a set location. However, if that set location is never set, the game defaults to the center of the room as a failsafe. Luckily for us, the center of this room happens to be on top of the gray block. Just going down the pipe isn't enough to set the game to believe we are in Chapter 5. As of right now, the game still thinks we just beat Chapter 4. This is where the Bobbery Early trick comes into play. Normally, when you wash up on the beach, Bobbery is missing and Mario is tasked to go find him. However, since we skipped that section, the shipwreck never happened, and so your crew never even made it to the beach. The trick takes place in the room where Mario finds Bobbery in the jungle. However, when we go there, the shipwreck never happened, thus Bobbery is still in his home in Rogueport, not trapped in the jungle. Even hitting the tree gives no results. Here is the full trick in real time. Alright, so what did I just do? Before I talk about the tech involved in this trick, I want to explain what the objective is. In this area, Bobbery's Ember fight is loaded underneath the room. If we can trigger this fight, it would set the game to believing we've just saved Bobbery from the Ember fight. This would set the game to a Chapter 5 state and allow us to hit the tree, releasing Bobbery. I'm gonna break this trick into 3 sections. First is Goombella buffering. Second is maneuvering the seam, and third is the drop onto Bobbery. The first step is to get Mario on the seam of the map. Normally there are hitboxes preventing Mario from just walking off the edge. We need to find a spot where Mario can walk around these hitboxes. The loading zone here is what we use. Bypassing the loading zone allows Mario to walk around the hitboxes, preventing him from falling out of the world. In order to bypass the loading zone though, we need to do a frame-perfect trick called Goombella buffering. Goombella buffering is a glitch where we move Mario a frame after Goombella starts tattling. There is a 1 frame window after pressing X that Mario can move. When Goombella tattles, the game has its time stopped and resumes after Goombella's last text box closes. That means Mario has a 1 frame window to move during this time stop. By moving pixel by pixel to the left, we can avoid triggering the loading zone since loading zones are deactivated during time stop. We start by going in paper mode above the loading zone and push up against the wall. This puts Mario as close to the loading zone as possible. We then have to move 4 pixels with Goombella buffers. There are 2 types of buffers depending on how far you press left in the 1-frame window. There are normal buffers, and what I like to call puff buffers. Puff buffers just mean you got some speed when you're moving in the 1-frame window. A puff buffer moves Mario left the equivalent of 2 normal buffers. So you can either do 4 regular buffers or 2 puff buffers to get the 4 pixels. Once you have moved 4 pixels, we press up to go around the invisible wall onto the back seam. Next we have to maneuver the seam. The seam is not a straight line, so it requires some movement to get around the curves. I have a very rough sketch of how the room is laid out. The green line I have drawn represents the back end of the seam. Going up past this will have Mario fall out of bounds and void out. The black line I have drawn represents the invisible walls. Going down past this will clip Mario back in bounds. The brown part is the area Mario can safely walk in. Any of the white areas are where Mario will fall out of bounds. The hard part of the seam walk is behind the main palm tree, as Mario must move up and then back down to avoid clipping back in bounds. You will notice that for the first stretch of land, we can actually move directly right if we start from far enough down without clipping back in bounds, saving us some trouble on the slight curve. The positioning for this is to line Mario up in between the palm tree and the thick tree, and stand just in front of the pointed rock. You'll notice I inch Mario down so that none of the rock is clipping through his body. From here, just hold right to a specific spot. Get on Yoshi if you want to go fast. We need to stop in the middle of the giant boulder, as holding right here would have Mario clip back in bounds. To avoid clipping in bounds, walk up just enough so Mario's body disappears. Then walk right until you are inside the next boulder. Now we need to move back down, as holding right here would again lead to a void out. Now we need to walk right to a very specific point. You need to make sure you are far enough down before you start walking right. A good visual cue is having one of Mario's feet in front of the grass and the other one behind. The point where these 2 boulders meet is our visual cue. While on Yoshi, we need the back of Mario's hat to be touching this point exactly. This next part is different for everybody and is dependent on how your TV cuts off the image. From here, we need to fall down on Bobbery's Ember fight. However, Bobbery is loaded on the same Z coordinate as the main palm tree, meaning we need to move pretty far down, but not too far down. As we drop down, we need to time our down press so that we land on Bobbery. As we drop down, we're going to be looking at the brown ground. For most people, they hold down as soon as the ground disappears. For myself, I have to wait about 1/4 second after it's gone and then hold down. The battle itself is whatever is routed. In the English any percent, we used Art Attack when we did this trick. Once the battle is over, you can now hit Bobbery out of the tree. This will advance the game to a Chapter 5 state, as it thinks you just saved him. It should be noted that leaving this room after the fight without hitting the tree will cause this trick to fail. Once you hit Bobbery out of the tree, Mario will be tasked with getting Bobbery a Coca-Cola Cola as his final wish. Once you retrieve that, Bobbery will join your party and you will have successfully completed Bobbery early. After Bobbery early, there is a second glitch in this area called Pirate's Grotto early. Pirate's Grotto early is exactly what it sounds like. With Bobbery now in your party, normally you would have to go back to tell Flavio the good news, and then Flavio will accompany you to help open the grotto with his Red Skull gem. However, we can skip that now that we have Bobbery. Pirate's Grotto early starts off the same way as Bobbery early. We Goombella buffer to get around the invisible walls, and then maneuver the seam. However, instead of dropping down, we continue right over to the grotto entrance. Since we are still behind the invisible wall, we can clip behind the rocks here. The loading zone for the grotto currently does not exist, that's why we need Bobbery. The loading zone works only after Bobbery has blown up the entrance, but since the bomb opening is blocked, we need to get behind the invisible walls and blow it up from the inside. Getting behind the skull rock isn't as simple as walking behind it, as the invisible walls here are weird. To get behind the skull rock, start by standing in the middle of the slanted rock in paper mode. Then walk down until Mario's body is outside of the rock. Then hold down right to get behind the skull rock. Once behind the skull rock, switch to Bobbery and throw him. If you just let Bobbery do his thing, a cutscene will play with an invisible Flavio. However, we can skip this cutscene by doing a cutscene walk. After throwing Bobbery, walk left to clip back in bounds, then go into paper mode and hold right. This will walk Mario during the cutscene, and he will take the loading zone. Congratulations, you've done Pirate's Grotto early. If you are worried about your position behind the skull, you can use your hammer to check where you are. If you face left and hammer, and you can see your hammer, then you're in a good spot. If you don't see your hammer, edge left until you can see it. Well, that's Pirate's Grotto early and Bobbery early. I hope you all enjoyed the video and found it interesting and or useful. Don't forget to check out my stream, it's in the description down below, and I hope you beautiful people have a great day.